Hello, so today I'm going to talk about how your happiness isn't dependent upon what other people think of the way you look. So, for most of my life, I really cared about what everybody thought of the way I looked. And I was really desperate for approval. I remember if my best friend said someone else looked good and she didn't say I looked good, I would feel really crushed. It was such a huge deal for me, and I hear people talking about all the time about worrying about other people judging what they look like and thinking that it must be so wonderful not to have that judgment or for people to think that they look good. And my experience of healing is that it's just all completely irrelevant. So sometimes I'll get a compliment from someone and they'll say, "Oh, you look pretty." And it just doesn't really do much for me. Or people will say, "Oh, you look young." And I appreciate the sentiment. And if that's really what it's about, just trying to be nice, then that is nice. Like, I can have a nice feeling from that. But it's not really to do with what they're saying. It's more the place that they're coming from, is that they want to make a kind gesture, let's say. But I just don't identify with how I look. Like, of course, I recognize myself as looking the way that I do, but it's not who I am. And I don't think it's that interesting. The particular shape. Now, if people want to appreciate looking at my body, great. But it's just, I feel like it's not really personal about me. It's like, imagine if you go on a first date with someone and they know nothing about you and they just tell you how beautiful you are and how they really want to go out with you, whatever. It would have no basis on knowing who you are. And for me, that wouldn't be very interesting or exciting or fulfilling, because there would be no connection. It would just be like I'm an ornament. And that is so often how we see ourselves. We see ourselves as ornaments, and we want to be pretty ornaments that people want to look at. And so many people worry about what other people think of what they look, but it doesn't matter because it doesn't say anything about who you are. Um, I mean, I couldn't really have changed more on this. Um, I used to care deeply because I thought it meant something about my value. It meant something about my lovability, my importance, my desirability. And now I don't think it really does mean any of those things. I think where we get trapped is that we think that we can't get what we want, or so the ones of us who struggle with body image especially, we can't get what we want if people don't think we look a certain way. So some people have this really extreme in their minds, and they talk a lot about pretty privilege, like you're not going to be able to get a job, everyone's going to treat you terribly, and they'll find lots of evidence to support that. And they say, oh, people don't help you with things, they don't care about you, you're irrelevant, you're invisible. And I can see that, there's a tiny grain of truth in that, in the sense that, I don't know, if my car breaks down, maybe I'm less likely to get help from some sleazy guy. But I'm not really bothered about that. It can be a bit sinister anyway. Um, I remember when I was young, I felt this really, hurt me a lot. Like when I went on holiday when I was 18 with my friend, She got all the attention. That felt like a real block on my happiness that, well, I can't get what I want because of the way my body looks. And so I was so sad. But that was such a limited mindset that I had because I didn't recognize the value of life. And we all are life manifesting in a unique way, and it all has the same value. And, some people get trained to focus very much on, the beauty standards and conformity with that. But that's got nothing to do with your value, and it's got nothing to do with your happiness. That's the important thing, because when I was at that age where I placed all my value on my body conforming, I didn't know, about much about where the value of life comes from, where happiness comes from. I just didn't know. And that's why I suffered. I didn't know it was possible to make meaningful, loving connections with people which weren't about ticking boxes. It was about getting to know someone and enjoying who they are with fewer conditions. So if you're feeling like you can't be happy because other people don't think you look good, that is a very compelling, I understand it's compelling, but that is a misunderstanding. There's so much more to life than some people thinking that you look good. And I think it's pretty obvious when you look at people who obviously conform with all these conventional beauty standards that there's no direct correlation between that and happiness. And you have to really explore this for yourself. Think about times when you were happy. And I don't mean like high. I mean just deeply happy, like relaxed, content. For me, I often feel like it's just got nothing to do with other people thinking that I look good. Now, I think there is a bit of a catch in all this in that we are social creatures. So we do care about what other people think of us. I mean, I do. I still do. And but you can, if you have a real problem in this area of body image and you suffer a lot with it, in a way, you have more of an opportunity to free yourself in this area because you have the motivation because you're suffering so much. People who aren't suffering so much, they'll probably just carry on with this and it'll probably get them down, but just not as much. But if you're suffering a lot, you do have the opportunity to really reflect and to get free. So we're social creatures and we want to be close to people. And the thing is, you can have that whether the whole world thinks you're ugly or beautiful, because that connection is on the basis of something else. And we will come up against prejudice. I think prejudice is the right word because basically people judge you according to how you look. And I think that's kind of what prejudice is. But you don't have to make that your life story. Like, part of this is practical. Like, can this person enjoy being with me, whether it's a friend, a relative, or like a romantic situation? Can they enjoy that? Because if they can't, it's not going to work out. And that doesn't have to be your problem. You don't have to turn that into, oh my God, there's something wrong with me. No one could ever love me. No, they have some judgments which act as a barrier to you connecting. And you don't have to let that be your problem. You can move on because there's like billions of people in the world. So my transformation is really huge and I'm so grateful for it. And I really think it's possible for everyone, especially if you're suffering a lot with this, because you have that motivation. me just think if there's anything else I want to add. Just on pretty privilege, there are things. It is a reality that some people care a lot about these standards, and you will come up against that, and that might be disappointing and frustrating at times. It's like if you go on a date and you like the person and they don't like you. I would get upset. I would be disappointed. I'd be frustrated. I'm like, oh. But what do you do with that? You can then turn that into there's something wrong with me and no one will ever love me. Don't do that, right? Or you can just let yourself be upset and move on. And what makes the difference is knowing that there is a value to life and there is a value to your life. And you have to learn to honor that. And partly this is about just experiencing it more. And you experience that more when you're not caught up in negative, judgmental thinking. You experience life and the beauty of life more directly. And then you know what you have to offer. You have that love, you have that joy, that enthusiasm that lights up a room, and people want to be around you because you're a loving, kind, fun presence. And you have to value the way that manifests for you, your humor, your interests, and honor that, even if they're different from some of the people around you. And even if you get rejected, life is full of rejection, but we don't have to make that define us. And if you look at people who are really successful, they have often been through terrible rejection, and it's what that they do with that that matters, and that is partly behind their success. So I understand it can be a very sticky problem. I was caught up in caring what other people thought about what I looked like for most of my life. So if you want help with that, I do have a upcoming group coaching program. It's called Beautiful You. It's a 4-week program. It starts on the 22nd of April. There's currently an early bird discount that ends next Thursday, the 28th of March. You can find out all about it on my website, mariamorgan.info. And if you're not sure about it or you have any questions, feel free to message me and I'm happy to have a chat with you. Yeah, one other thing that I wanted to say was people often say, it's not so much what other people think, it's what I think. And I think there's truth in that, but there's also something else to see. So people will say that, and I know people who get loads of compliments from other people, they still feel they look ugly, it doesn't do anything for them. But often they also don't want to leave the house and they don't want to be seen. Or if there's a photo, they're worried about people seeing it. So you can see there's that social element. And I think it's the fear that we are unlovable because we want to be loved by other people. And that's okay. That's human. And I think it's healthy to be in loving relationships. And we can honor that need without getting confused that that's to do with what we look like. Like you can be close to people without it being on the basis that they think you look like a model. That doesn't really make for a happy, loving relationship. It could be part of it, but that's not the reason for it. And the other thing is, it is true. Like, let's say other people do think you look good and they keep telling you, and it doesn't register with you, and you just dismiss it because you feel ugly. You're placing too much focus on your opinion of the degree to which your body conforms with standards. That's not where your value comes from. And when I was like that, I was a much more boring person. I was bored by myself because I just had the same thoughts about what I looked like. I was very self-obsessed, very small-minded, And I couldn't help that, so I don't judge it at all. But I'm just encouraging you to try and pay slightly, just a tiny bit less attention to that thinking and see what else life has to offer. Because it's so much more fun, exhilarating, enjoyable, when you're not just focused on this limited thinking about, whether your body ticks certain boxes. And that's always like a time limited game, because there's aging. I spoke about aging yesterday, the video didn't load. Um, and it's just an endless battle if that's the route you go down. But there is another way. You can learn to value life and appreciate the way that nature shows up in your body. And it doesn't have to be so painful. And you don't have to be so scared of what other people think or even of what you think, because you can just take it less seriously. Like I will have thoughts about my body because, I've been conditioned my whole life. So I'll have thoughts about, oh, my stomach doesn't look good. But that doesn't run my whole life because I just know it's like nonsense. It's trivia, it's irrelevance. You've got to focus on the big picture. Like, you've got limited time here. What are you going to do with it? What do you want to think about? And that will help you when those thoughts come up to take them less seriously. And even if you have strong feelings, it's your life. And we don't have to just be sheep who worry about things that we're told to worry about by some people. We can just say no, not interested. Anyway, I understand that might sound a bit too simplistic. So if you want some support, because sometimes you do need support, we need each other. We're social creatures, right? We need some solidarity, some encouragement. So please reach out to me if you're interested in the program. I'd love to help you. I'm passionate about this because I think this suffering is unnecessary. And also, when you stop suffering, it's going to be wonderful for the world because you're going to shine. And we need that. We need you. So I'll leave it there for today and hope this actually uploads.